Take a deep, easy breath. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw loosen, and your thoughts settle like gentle dust floating through the morning light. You don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to do anything at all. The only task before you now is to rest and listen. As you breathe, imagine the air around you is soft and golden, drifting through the open window of a quiet afternoon. Each breath carries a little warmth, a faint sweetness of wildflowers, and the sound of a breeze lazily moving through tall grass. Now, in your mind's eye, picture a place so calm that even time itself decided to take a nap there. This is the Valley of Yawns, a sleepy corner of the world where clouds linger for days, where the hills look like gentle pillows, and where every creature from the tiniest beetle to the most ancient tortoise moves at the exact pace it wants. You arrive there by accident, or perhaps by invitation, though no one quite remembers sending it. You stand on a narrow path, lined with soft moss, your shoes sinking slightly into the earth. The air is thick with the scent of chamomile and honey, and in the distance, you can hear the low hum of bees moving lazily from one blossom to the next. It's said that this valley once hosted the most boring war ever fought, a conflict so uneventful that not a single soldier ever raised a sword, nor a single villager even bothered to hide. There were no banners, no trumpets, no victories or defeats, only naps, polite conversations, and the occasional cup of tea that went cold before anyone remembered to drink it. As you walk, you notice the sky has that gentle pre-evening glow, the kind of light that makes everything look soft around the edges. You pass an old wooden sign half buried in the grass. It reads, in crooked letters, "Welcome to Yawnshire. Please speak softly. Everyone's asleep." A faint smile touches your lips. You continue, the crunch of tiny stones beneath your feet, blending with the rhythmic chirp of faraway crickets. You soon come upon a small cottage perched beside a sluggish stream. The roof is covered in wild thyme and little yellow flowers, and a faint curl of smoke drifts lazily from the chimney. On the porch sits a tortoise, wearing a tiny cap made of dandelion fluff. His name, as you will later learn, is General Tumble, the most patient commander in history, and the only one to have led his army into complete stillness. "Good evening," he says slowly, with a voice that sounds like the rustle of dry leaves. "You're just in time for nothing at all." You chuckle. Softly, he gestures toward a second rocking chair beside him. "Please, sit. We don't start for another never." You take the seat. The chair creaks gently beneath you. From here you can see the stream glimmering like melted glass, and beyond it, fields of tall, sleepy wheat swaying under the golden sky. General Tumble sighs contentedly. "You've heard of great wars, I suppose, the battles of kings and the clashes of empires, but here in Yawnshire, we fought for peace by doing precisely nothing. The Great Yawnish War, they called it, a triumph of stillness." He pauses to sip from a cup of mint tea so weak it might as well be warm water. "It all began when two neighboring villages, Snoozeton and Slumberfield, disagreed over whose sheep grazed more slowly." You smile, and he nods solemnly. "A serious matter, of course. The Slumberfield shepherds claimed their sheep held the record for most naps per afternoon, but the Snoozetonians argued their sheep could outdo them in sheer lack of ambition." He laughs softly, and even his laughter sounds like a sigh. And so, the leaders met on this very porch to settle the issue. They planned a grand war, banners, strategies, training camps. But on the first morning, when the sun rose and the horns were supposed to sound, he takes another long sip. "No one came." You glance at him. "No one? Not a soul," he says with pride. "Every soldier overslept, Every horse refused to move. The bakers forgot to bake. The drummers misplaced their sticks, and even the messenger pigeons fell asleep mid-air and landed softly in the hay. By noon, the generals decided to reschedule indefinitely. You can't help but laugh quietly. So the war never happened? Oh, it happened, he insists, wagging a slow finger. It just happened peacefully. Every day, the troops would gather, yawn in unison, and agree that maybe tomorrow would be better for a battle, and tomorrow never came. He leans back, satisfied. A perfect record, 0 casualties, infinite naps. You gaze out at the sleepy horizon. The sun dips behind the hills, and the world turns the color of warm milk and amber. A few fireflies appear, drifting lazily through the air like tiny lanterns. The tortoise blinks slowly. You look tired, he says kindly. That's a good sign around here. He stands, which takes a while, and gestures toward a narrow path leading deeper into the valley. There's an inn down the way, run by Lady Pillowdown, finest beds in the region. She'll tell you the rest of the tale, or at least the parts she remembers between naps. You thank him, stand and stretch. The air is cool now, touched by the smell of evening dew. As you walk along the path, the cricket's song grows louder, blending with the soft burble of the stream. You feel the weight of the day slipping off your shoulders. Every step feels slower, gentler. Even your thoughts seem to exhale. In the distance, you see the faint glow of lanterns through fog, the little inn of Lady Pillowdown, waiting like a cozy ember in the night. You smile, ready to rest, ready to listen, ready to drift deeper into this strange, peaceful world where nothing ever really happens, and that's exactly how everyone likes it. And as the stars begin to blink awake above Yawnshire, you take one last breath, long and deep, and feel the quiet magic of the Valley of Yawns wrap around you like a blanket. The soft path beneath your feet feels like velvet now worn smooth by centuries of half-hearted travelers and sleepwalkers who never quite made it past this point. The moon has risen, a perfectly round biscuit of light resting in a sky of deep indigo. The stars above look sleepy too, blinking lazily, as if unsure whether to stay awake or join the rest of the valley in its eternal drowse. You follow the winding road toward the little inn you saw from afar. It sits on a gentle slope beside the stream, its roof a patchwork of straw and moss, its windows glowing like golden eyes in the dusk. A wooden sign swings slowly in the breeze, its letters hand-painted in a looping, dreamy script. The Pillowdown rest fine beds, soft dreams, no loud guests. You can almost smell the warmth before you step inside. Baked bread, cinnamon tea, and something faintly floral, like lavender left to dry near a fire. The door creaks softly as you push it open, and immediately a bell above gives a single, half-hearted ding, as if it can't quite be bothered to finish ringing. The inn's main room is cozy, with low wooden beams, fat candles melting into rivers of wax, and shelves filled with books whose titles drift off mid-sentence. A calico cat sleeps atop the counter, one paw twitching slightly as it dreams. Behind the counter, a plump woman with hair like silver cobwebs looks up from her knitting. Her spectacles rest crookedly on her nose. "Well, hello, traveler," she says in a voice that could make even a thunderstorm calm down. "You must be new. Not many visitors come to Yawnshire unless they're lost, or looking for a nap." You nod. "I suppose I'm both." She chuckles, the sound like a kettle gently beginning to boil. "Then you're in the right place. I'm Lady Pillowdown, proud owner of the least eventful inn in all the kingdoms." You look around, Every corner glows with gentle lamplight. Every chair is padded and slightly tilted, as if encouraging anyone to sit just long enough to fall asleep. A few guests doze quietly in the corners. An old man with a beard full of crumbs, a child clutching a plush goose, and what appears to be a knight, still wearing one boot. Lady Pillowdown gestures to a seat near the fire. "Sit, dear. You look ready to melt." You sink into a wide armchair stuffed with feathers, so soft they sigh under your weight. The fire crackles, throwing golden reflections across the beams and shelves. The innkeeper hums softly to herself as she pours a cup of something steaming into a small ceramic mug. "Chamomile, honey, and a dash of warm milk," she says, handing it to you. "It's our local specialty. We call it the truce tea, guaranteed to end any argument before it begins." You take a sip. It tastes like peace itself, a soft sweetness that makes your whole body unclench. "So," she begins, lowering herself into a rocking chair, "you met General Tumble, I take it?" "I did. He told me about the great Yawnshire War." Her eyes twinkle. "Ah, yes, a legendary affair of inaction. You know, I was a young girl when it all didn't happen." You raise an eyebrow, intrigued. "You were there?" "Oh, indeed," she says proudly. "Though to be honest, I slept through most of it, as did everyone else. But the details I remember are terribly dull. Would you like to hear them?" You nod. She settles back, rocking slowly. "It began on a morning much like this evening, soft, hazy, with mist curling over the meadows. The soldiers of Snooserton gathered on the north hill, their banners drooping from the weight of dew. Across the valley, the men of Slumberfield lined up near the stream, yawning so wide you could see their tonsils from here." She chuckles, knitting continuing without her looking. "They had drums ready, of course, but the drummers decided to rest their arms first. Then, when the horn was meant to sound, the hornblower took a deep breath, realized it was far too much effort, and sat down for a biscuit instead." You smile, picturing the scene, two entire armies waiting politely, watching the clouds drift by. "Eventually," Lady Pillowdown continues, "someone declared the war had officially begun. But since no one could remember who said it, or when, or even whether they said it out loud, everyone simply nodded in agreement and took a nap to celebrate." She giggles like a teapot bubbling over. "The chroniclers tried to record it, bless them, but the ink kept drying on their pens before they could finish the sentences. The historians who came later, they couldn't even find a date. So now we just call it the Timeless War, because time itself gave up counting." You lean back, letting the sound of her voice wash over you. It feels like listening to a bedtime story told by the hearth in a dream you once had. Lady Pillowdown lowers her knitting. "Of course, there were heroes. General Tumble was one. Then there was Sir Droophelm the Mild, a knight so polite that he apologized to his sword for disturbing its peace, and Captain Snorbury, whose snoring was so deep it was mistaken for cannon fire, causing both sides to call a truce until morning." You laugh quietly, the warmth of the fire seeping into your bones. "But you know," she adds thoughtfully, "the real victory wasn't that nobody fought. It's that they realized something remarkable. Life in Yawnshire didn't need excitement to be full. The quiet was enough. The stillness was the triumph." She looks at you, her eyes soft and knowing. "And you, dear traveler, perhaps you came here because you needed to remember that too." The fire pops gently. The cat stretches, yawns, and goes back to sleep. You sip the last of your tea, feeling your eyelids grow heavier. Outside, the cricket song has become a lullaby. The inn smells of warmth and lavender. Lady Pillowdown hums something ancient and slow, a melody that seems to wind through the beams, the walls, and your heart, as she rocks and hums, your mind drifts. The words fade into the rhythm of the fire, the creak of the chair, the whisper of your own breathing. You think of the valley, the sleepy sheep, the dreaming generals, the wars that never happened. You feel safe here, surrounded by the gentle absurdity of peace. Lady Pillowdown's voice becomes softer, slower. Tomorrow, perhaps, you'll visit the old meadow where the two armies used to meet, the field of almost. You'll see for yourself how quiet the world can be when everyone agrees to rest. Her words trail off into silence. The fire burns low, the lamps dim, and you find yourself halfway between waking and dreaming, still in your chair, still in the warm glow of the inn, listening to the hush of a war that never was. Outside, the wind sighs across the hills, carrying with it the faintest echo of laughter and lullabies from long ago. You smile without realizing it, and somewhere in the valley, a tortoise turns over in his sleep and mumbles, "Still no casualties." The morning in Yawnshire arrives slowly, as if the sun itself has decided to stretch before getting up. Pale light drifts over the hills like cream poured into tea. A gentle mist clings to the meadows, curling around your ankles as you step outside the inn. The air is cool and smells faintly of dew, hay, and freshly baked bread. Somewhere behind you, Lady Pillowdown hums a tune that sounds like it was written just for mornings like this. You follow the little stream that winds past the inn, its water so calm it looks like a ribbon of glass. Dragonflies hover lazily above it, their wings catching tiny sparks of gold in the early light. The path bends, and soon you find yourself standing before a broad, grassy plain. A wooden sign marks the entrance, the field of almost sight of the great Yawnish War, which nearly happened once. You smile, remembering Lady Pillowdown's words. The place looks nothing like a battlefield. It's peaceful, a rolling expanse of wildflowers, soft hills, and the occasional sheep that looks like it's dozing while standing up. The grass sways gently, whispering secrets to the wind. You walk slowly, each step sinking into the cool morning softness. The sky above is vast and empty, except for a single cloud that seems to be resting rather than drifting. At the heart of the field stands a curious thing, an old wooden table, weathered by time and covered in carvings. The legs are uneven, and one side tilts ever so slightly. Around it sit 6 mismatched chairs, each with a little brass plaque. You kneel to read the first one. General Tumble, commander of Snoozeton's sleepy battalion. The next reads, Sir Droophelm, the mild knight of the polite order, and another, Captain Snorberry, chief of strategic slumber. You move around the table, reading them all. On the last chair, someone has scratched a simple phrase into the wood. We almost fought. Then we remembered tea was ready. You laugh quietly. The breeze carries the sound away, scattering it into the grass. You imagine the scene, both sides gathering in this very spot, their banners drooping, their helmets slightly askew, all of them stifling yawns. The generals probably tried to give speeches, only to forget halfway through what they were talking about. The drummers likely started tapping a rhythm, but the sound was so gentle, it put the horses to sleep. You can almost hear it, the murmuring of soldiers, chatting softly about scones and weather, the quiet clinking of teacups on armor plates, the rhythmic snoring of Captain Snorberry echoing like distant thunder. The field of almost is covered in flowers now, white, yellow, pale pink. They grow where no blood was ever spilled. Perhaps that's why they bloom so freely, their petals open to the sun without fear. A small plaque near the table catches your eye. It reads, "Dedicated to the art of doing nothing together." You stand there for a long while, just breathing, feeling how the place seems to hum with tranquility. The wind moves through the grass like a lullaby. Somewhere nearby, you hear the soft jingling of bells, slow, measured, and somehow drowsy. You turn toward the sound and see a donkey approaching along the path, pulling a tiny cart filled with scrolls and papers. The donkey wears a hat. The hat has a feather. Perched atop its back, holding the reins loosely, is a round man with spectacles so large they nearly hide his face. "Good day," he calls out cheerfully, though his voice sounds like someone speaking through a yawn. "You must be the traveler Lady Pillowdown mentioned. I'm Professor Humbledrum, local historian of all the things that nearly happened." You greet him warmly, and he tips his hat in response. He climbs down from the cart and pats the donkey's nose. This here is Philosophy named, for her habit of staring into space for hours on end. The donkey blinks slowly, clearly unbothered by introductions. Professor Humbledrum dusts off his coat. "I see you found the old negotiation table. Fascinating piece of history. That's where the Great Compromise of Yawns was signed." "The Great Compromise?" you ask, intrigued. He nods eagerly, adjusting his spectacles. "Ah, yes. Both armies met here to discuss the matter of grazing rights. They debated for hours. Well, they would have, had they not all fallen asleep after the first paragraph. When they woke up, they realized peace had already been achieved through mutual napping." He unrolls a scroll, revealing an official-looking document covered in smudged ink and faint drool stains. "See, the treaty states, and I quote, 'Both parties agree to graze wherever they please, provided they do so quietly.' A masterpiece of diplomacy." You can't help but smile. "So this was the only war ever won by sleeping?" "Oh, many have tried since," he says solemnly, "but none with such dedication. Yawnshire remains undefeated in the art of inaction." He tucks the scroll away and looks out over the meadow. "Every spring, we hold the Festival of Almost here. People come from all over to celebrate the day that nothing happened. There's tea tasting, blanket competitions, and of course, the annual longest yawn contest. The record, I believe, is still held by a farmer named Old Bert, 12 seconds without interruption. A marvel of endurance." The professor sighs happily at the memory. You both stand in silence for a while, listening to the faint buzz of bees. The sun is higher now, warming your shoulders. A sleepy peace fills the air, not empty, but full of quiet life. After some time, the professor gathers his papers, muttering about documenting the new visitor's reaction to the field. He climbs back into his cart, waves, and slowly trundles away, the donkey's bells chiming softly until they disappear behind the hill. You remain there, alone again, in the field of almost. You feel something subtle shift within you, a sense that, perhaps, stillness is its own kind of victory. You lie down in the grass, the blades cool against your skin. Above you, the sky is wide and forgiving. A lark sings lazily somewhere to the east. You close your eyes. The wind brushes against your face like a gentle hand. You feel your breath deepen, your body settle, your thoughts unwind. Maybe, you think, peace doesn't need to be declared. Maybe it's always been waiting right here, in the places where we decide to stop and listen. And as you drift between waking and dreaming, the flowers sway above you, like an audience applauding the silence. The next morning begins with a sound so soft it might have been a sigh, the rustling of linen curtains stirred by a slow breeze. You open your eyes to a pale dawn, the kind that feels like it's still deciding whether to wake the world or let it sleep a little longer. A faint birdsong drifts through the window, distant and unhurried. Lady Pillowdown's inn smells of porridge and honey. Someone downstairs is humming what sounds like a lullaby, disguised as a breakfast song. You stretch, feeling rested in a way that feels new, not from sleep alone, but from the quiet that seems to have settled inside you. After a simple meal toast, berries, and a mug of something warm that tastes faintly of melted sunlight, you decide to continue exploring the valley. Lady Pillowdown hands you a little parcel wrapped in cloth. "For later," she says with a wink. "A biscuit or two. You'll know when to eat them." You thank her, step outside, and follow the cobblestone path leading away from the inn. The morning fog has thinned into ribbons that dance lazily above the ground. Somewhere ahead, a faint chime of metal catches your ear, slow and deliberate, like a hammer tapping on dreams rather than stone. The path winds through fields and eventually leads you to a curious sight. An enormous wooden barn painted a faded blue, surrounded by wind chimes that seem to ring in slow motion. Over the door, a hand-painted sign reads, "The Museum of Unfinished Battles, established, never completed, sometime later." A small elderly man with a paintbrush tucked behind one ear stands outside, polishing a doorknob that's already gleaming. His clothes are splattered with colors, and his spectacles magnify his eyes so large that he looks perpetually surprised. "Morning," he says cheerfully. "Name's Curator Bipple. You're just in time, though. Time doesn't really apply here." He pushes open the door and gestures for you to enter. Inside, the air smells faintly of sawdust and lavender oil. The room is vast, but filled with quiet, the kind of quiet that seems to hum gently, as though the walls themselves remember how to nap. "What is this place?" you ask, looking around. "The Museum of Unfinished Battles," Bipple replies proudly, dusting his hands. "A collection dedicated to all the great conflicts that never quite managed to happen. You won't find a single sword swing here, only hesitation, reconsideration, and long tea breaks." He leads you through the first gallery. The walls are lined with glass cases, each containing something that looks both important and faintly ridiculous. "This," he says, pointing to one display, "is the legendary helmet of Maybe. It was meant to be worn by a general during the Battle of Mild Disagreement, but the battle was postponed indefinitely after both sides decided to talk about their feelings instead." You lean closer. The helmet is indeed impressive, though the plume has been replaced by what looks like a feather duster. Beneath it sits a faded note that reads, "Worn once, then removed for comfort." Curator Bipple continues to another case. Inside lies a drum, its skin still taut. "The drum of eternal rehearsal," he explains. "The drummers of Yawnshire practiced for weeks to signal the beginning of war, but they found the rhythm so soothing that they accidentally invented lullabies instead. Listen." He taps the glass lightly. A soft hum resonates, warm, rhythmic, and strangely calming. You feel your heartbeat slow in time with it. The next exhibit is even stranger. A massive banner, beautifully embroidered with gold thread, depicting two doves sharing a cup of tea. "Ah yes," Bipple says, his eyes twinkling. "The banner of peaceful misunderstanding. Both armies brought banners that day, but when they unfurled them, they realized the embroiderers had mixed them up. Instead of lions and swords, they got teapots and cushions. It was hard to feel aggressive after that. You laugh softly, imagining the moment. The curator chuckles too, pleased. I always say embroidery has ended more wars than kings ever could. He leads you deeper into the museum, past rows of peculiar artifacts, a quill labeled "the pen that refused to sign a declaration," a pair of boots titled "The March That Never Began," a sealed envelope reading orders that nobody opened. At the end of the hall, there's a quiet alcove where sunlight spills through a round window, illuminating a small wooden bench. Above it hangs a plaque in memory of the silence between battles. You sit there for a while, feeling the stillness settle around you like a soft blanket. The air feels heavier here, not sad, but reverent, as if honoring something invisible and kind. Curator Bipple joins you, lowering himself slowly onto the bench beside you. "You know," he says, his voice hushed, "most people think war is noise, but silence now, that's where peace really lives. The Yawnshire War taught us that." He smiles gently, eyes on the window where dust motes drift in lazy spirals. "Sometimes I wonder if the valley itself remembers. The land feels relieved, don't you think? Like it exhaled centuries ago and never inhaled again." You nod. You do feel it, that deep, ancient exhale, the kind of peace that can't be made or lost, only noticed. After a long pause, Bipple claps his hands softly. Come, there's one more thing you should see." He leads you to the final exhibit, a large painting that nearly covers the wall. It's not finished. Half of it is blank canvas. The other half shows a sunlit meadow filled with soldiers sitting cross-legged, eating bread, sharing jokes, one of them even napping under a flagpole. "This," he says proudly, "is the Battle of Nothing." The painter began it to commemorate the Great Yawnshire War, but found the subject so dull that he fell asleep mid-brushstroke. When he woke up, he decided to leave it that way, a masterpiece of incompletion. You stare at it for a long while. Somehow, it feels alive, a celebration of everything left undone, every kindness chosen over conquest. When you leave the museum, the world outside feels even quieter, as though it's listening too. The wind moves gently through the grass, whispering through the chimes that hang from the eaves. Curator Bipple waves from the doorway, smiling. "Do come back," he says. "We'll be here finishing nothing at all." You smile, wave, and continue down the path, the warm air brushing your face, the valley spreading before you like a soft dream. You think of unfinished battles, sleepy generals, and treaties written in yawns, and you realize something profound. Perhaps the world doesn't need to be completed to be beautiful. Perhaps almost is enough. You take a deep, contented breath, and the sound of distant chimes follows you, fading into the endless peace of Yawnshire. The afternoon drifts in like a sigh wrapped in sunlight. You've left the museum of unfinished battles behind, and the cobblestone path now meanders between hedges, heavy with lilac and honeysuckle. Bees hum in slow, lazy patterns, as though they too have decided that haste is overrated. The breeze carries the scent of baked apples and something faintly floral lavender, perhaps the smell of serenity itself. The path leads you uphill toward what looks like an orchard. The trees are old and generous, their branches heavy with fruit that glows like amber under the soft Sunday. At the top of the hill, you notice a round structure, half cottage, half pavilion, with white curtains fluttering at its open windows. In front of it, a small sign reads, in gentle cursive, "Her Majesty's Afternoon Tea." entry only for those who promise not to rush. You smile and step through the archway of vines that marks the entrance. A stone walkway guides you through the orchard toward a circular garden filled with roses, clover, and dandelions that haven't been plucked, as though even the weeds are too polite to intrude on the peace. At the center sits a low table surrounded by cushions, and at that table sits a woman dressed in layers of soft blue silk. Her crown is made not of gold, but of daisies woven with silver thread. Her expression is serene, eyes half closed, lips curved in a smile that suggests she's been content for centuries. A tortoise sits at her feet, a cousin of General Tumble, perhaps, and a teapot steams gently on the table. "You must be the traveler everyone's whispering about," she says in a voice as soft as falling petals. "Welcome to the Orchard of Ease. I am Queen Drowsabel, ruler of all things unhurried." You bow slightly, though she waves a hand dismissively. "No need for formality here. Please sit. The cushions are enchanted. They mold to your comfort." You lower yourself onto one, and indeed, it feels like sitting on a warm cloud. The Queen pours you a cup of tea that smells faintly of vanilla and rain. "I hear you visited the Field of Almost," she says, stirring her cup lazily, "and Curator Bipple's fine collection of half-efforts." You nod. "They were wonderful in their own strange way." Her smile deepens. "Strange, yes, but wise. Yawnshire's greatest gift is not its beauty, nor its history, it's its refusal to hurry. Every other kingdom fights to finish things. Wars, roads, speeches, ideas. Here, we let life finish itself." You sip your tea. It's warm, gentle, and impossibly soothing, like the liquid form of a lullaby. "Would you like to hear," she says, leaning forward slightly, "how the great Yawnish War almost ended in disaster?" You blink, surprised. "I thought it was the most peaceful war ever fought." "Oh, it was," she says, "but even peace has its near mishaps." She settles back and folds her hands in her lap. "It happened on the 5th day of the war that never was. Both armies had been very busy, not fighting, napping under trees, comparing recipes, writing poetry about the weather. But then," she pauses dramatically, or perhaps she's just pausing to remember. Then, a rumor began to spread. Someone claimed that Snoozerton had taken too many tea leaves from Slumberfield's storage barn. It wasn't true. Of course, the barn was open to all, and most of the tea had gone stale anyway, but the mere idea of impropriety caused a stir. You lean in slightly, amused. "A stir?" "Oh yes," she says with mock gravity, "the kind of stir that required an emergency council meeting. The generals gathered here, in this very orchard, to discuss how to prevent unnecessary alarm." Her tone softens. "They sat under these trees, right where you are now, each with a cup of tea in hand. They debated politely, then they voted to have a nap before deciding anything. By the time they woke up, the rumor had resolved itself. Turns out, the missing tea had simply been used to make more tea." You can't help but laugh, and Queen Drowsabel joins you, her laughter delicate and quiet, like chimes in the wind. "That was the closest Yawnshire ever came to a conflict," she says fondly. "After that, we instituted the tea before trouble rule. No disagreements may be discussed until everyone has had a warm drink and at least one pastry." A maid approaches silently, carrying a silver tray with tiny cream-filled tarts, each dusted with powdered sugar. She sets them down with the precision of someone who's never hurried in her life. Queen Drowsabel gestures toward the tray. "Try one. They're made from apples grown in this orchard, said to be the sleepiest apples in the world." bite too slowly, and you might forget to finish. You take one. The crust crumbles perfectly. The filling tastes of honey, soft spice, and dreamlike sweetness. As you eat, the Queen continues. Many have wondered why Yawnshire never sought to expand, to conquer, to assert itself. But why would we? We have everything we need: sunlight, stillness, tea, and time. And besides, she gazes out over the orchard, her expression distant. The faster kingdoms always seem so tired. You follow her gaze over the rolling fields, the misty horizon, the tiny cottages scattered like breadcrumbs through green. The entire world seems to breathe at one slow, shared rhythm. The Queen turns back to you, her tone softer now. You seem like someone who carries a little hurry inside. Most travelers do. Tell me, what did you come here to escape? You think for a moment, unsure how to answer. You hadn't thought of yourself as escaping anything. Yet, as her eyes meet yours, calm, timeless, kind, you realize she's right. Somewhere deep down, you have been fleeing the noise of doing, the endless race to arrive. I suppose, you say slowly, I came to rest. She nods approvingly. Then you are already winning the only war worth fighting, the war against haste. Her tortoise companion raises its head, blinks once, and returns to its nap, as if in agreement. The Queen rises, graceful and deliberate, and the air around her seems to shimmer faintly with drowsy magic. When you leave this orchard, she says, take the western path. It will lead you to the library of forgotten deeds. There you'll find records of all the things people never got around to doing, and the peace they found in not doing them. She places a hand gently on your shoulder. And remember, unfinished things are not failures. They are invitations to rest. You bow your head slightly in gratitude. The Queen smiles. Now, before you go, one more thing. She raises her teacup. To the war that never was, and to the art of doing absolutely nothing, perfectly. You clink your cup gently against hers. The sound rings like a lullaby note in the afternoon air. When you finally rise to leave, the orchard glows in the golden haze of late day. The Queen waves lazily from her seat, her crown of daisies shining faintly in the light. As you step back onto the winding path, the breeze carries her voice to you one last time. Go slowly, traveler. The world waits for those who don't chase it. The leaves whisper in agreement. The sun tilts westward, stretching long soft shadows ahead of you, and somewhere behind, a kettle sings steady, serene, and endlessly patient. The western path from Queen Drowsabel's orchard is the kind of road that seems to hum softly as you walk it, a melody made from bird calls, gentle wind, and the slow rhythm of your own footsteps. The air carries the faint perfume of jasmine and rain-damp earth. Each breath feels easier than the last. You pass under arching trees, whose branches form a leafy ceiling, dappling the light into golden patterns that sway across the ground. After some time, though, you've stopped counting the trees part, revealing a wide clearing. At its center stands a building unlike any other you've seen in Yawnshire. It's enormous, yet it seems to lean comfortably against the hillside, as though even a structure this grand has decided not to stand too tall. The sign above the arched door reads, in calm lettering, the Library of Forgotten Deeds, open always, though never in a hurry. The heavy oak doors creak open at your touch, releasing a sigh of cool, book-scented air. The smell is heavenly old parchment, dust, ink, and something sweet, like dried lavender. Inside, light filters through high windows, scattering into dust motes that drift lazily, as if browsing their own thoughts. Rows upon rows of shelves stretch in every direction, bending slightly, as if tired from holding so many half-finished stories. Some shelves end abruptly, as though their builders stopped for tea and never came back. Ladders lean at dreamy angles. The whole place feels alive, not bustling, but gently breathing. At the nearest desk sits an elderly man with round spectacles, his grey beard tucked neatly into a knitted scarf. He looks up as you enter, smiling like someone who's been expecting you for a very long time. "Ah," he says softly, "a visitor from the waking world. Welcome. I am Archivist Murmur, keeper of the uncompleted." You greet him, your voice instinctively quiet in this cathedral of stillness. "The uncompleted?" you ask. He nods. "Yes, everything that was never quite finished, all the plans left halfway done, the letters never sent, the gardens never planted. We keep them here, safe from the guilt of forgetting." He gestures toward the shelves. "Would you like a tour?" You nod, and he rises, moving with deliberate slowness, his robes whispering like paper. The first section he shows you is labeled Projects Left Midway. Each book spine is inscribed with titles like The Almost Invented Contraption and The Song with No Ending Verse. Murmur slides one out and opens it. Inside, the pages are filled with faint pencil, sketches, diagrams, ideas, words that trail off into ellipses. "This one," he says fondly, "belongs to a musician who intended to write a lullaby for his newborn child. He fell asleep before finishing it. When the child grew up, they discovered the melody was perfect as it was unfinished, like a breath that never needed to end." You close your eyes for a moment, imagining that tune gentle, eternal, incomplete. The next aisle is called Intentions Misplaced. The books here are smaller, their pages blank, except for brief notes. "Send letter tomorrow. Learn to bake bread. Visit old friend." Murmur runs a hand along the spines. "These are not regrets," he says softly. "They are pauses. You see, not everything left undone is a loss. Sometimes the pause itself is the point." You walk together in silence, the floor creaking gently beneath your feet. In the distance, you hear the faint rustle of pages, the sound of forgotten dreams whispering to one another. At last, you reach the heart of the library, a vast circular chamber with a domed ceiling painted to resemble a twilight sky. The shelves curve around a single, enormous table, on which sits a book larger than any you've seen bound in soft leather, its cover embossed with the words, "The Compendium of Collective Rest." Murmur places his hand on it reverently. "This," he explains, "is where we record every nap, every sigh, every moment of rest that ever changed a life. The Great Yawnish War has its own chapter, of course." He opens the book, and a warm golden glow spills out, as if the pages themselves emit light. The script inside is slow, curling, dreamlike. You read aloud. "On the fourth day, both armies met on the field of Almost, and realized they could not remember why they were there, so they lay down their arms and shared bread instead. Thus ended the war that never began." Murmur nods approvingly. "A fine entry, that one. The longest conflict in history to last no time at all." He turns a few more pages. You see stories of rest that changed entire fates. The carpenter who paused halfway through building a chair and discovered a perfect bench instead. The queen who postponed a decree only to realize she didn't need it. The traveler who decided to sit by a stream for a while and stayed long enough to find peace. You smile faintly. That last one sounds familiar. Murmur's eyes twinkle. History repeats itself, though never in a rush. He closes the great book, and the glow fades back into the quiet air. Would you like to make an entry of your own? He asks. You blink, surprised. Me? Of course, he says gently. Every visitor leaves behind something they've decided not to finish. A thought, a plan, a burden, something you no longer wish to carry forward. He opens a smaller ledger and hands you a quill. Write it down, then let it rest here, where unfinished things belong. You think for a moment. The air feels still, as though even time itself is waiting. Finally, you write. I leave behind the need to arrive quickly. Murmur reads it, smiles, and nods. A fine donation. We'll keep it with care. He stamps the page with a seal shaped like a sleeping crescent moon. Now it is safely forgotten, which is another way of saying remembered differently. You hand back the quill, feeling oddly lighter, as though you've set down something invisible but heavy. The archivist leads you to a small balcony that overlooks the valley. From here, the view is breathtaking. Endless rolling fields bathed in gold, the stream glimmering like silk, the orchard far in the distance where Queen Drowsabel's teapot still steams faintly in the sunday. The library will always be here, Murmur says, growing slowly, waiting kindly. You may return whenever you wish to forget something with love. You thank him, and he bows his head slightly. Safe travels, slow traveler. You descend the steps, the scent of old books following you like a blessing. As you step back into the open air, the wind stirs gently, as if turning the pages of the world itself. For a moment, you close your eyes, hearing the murmur of leaves, the whisper of unfinished dreams, the hush of a valley that remembers peace. And then, softly, you begin walking again, not toward an end, but toward another pause. The air is warm with afternoon light. As you leave the library of forgotten deeds behind, you follow a cobblestone lane lined with tall meadow grass and sleepy daisies that seem to tilt their faces toward you as you pass. A gentle breeze drifts through the valley, carrying the scent of wood smoke and clover. Somewhere nearby, a bell chimes low and musical, as if struck by a dream instead of a hand. Up ahead, you see something unexpected, a small railway station nestled between the hills. Its sign reads, in cheerful, faded letters, the Yawnshire line trains departing to wherever you'd rather be. You pause, tilting your head. A railway, here, in this kingdom of calm. The platform looks more like a porch than a place of travel. Potted plants line the edges, cats nap on the benches, and the ticket booth has a handwritten note pinned to it, back in 5 naps. As you wait, the silence is broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant puff of steam. Then, from around the bend, you see it, a quaint little train, cream and olive in color, gliding down the track at a pace so gentle you could probably walk beside it. Its windows gleam with golden light, and its chimney releases slow curls of smoke that dissolve in the sunday. When the train arrives, the door opens with a soft hiss, and a conductor steps out. He's tall and thin, with a kind smile and a cap that seems slightly too large for his head. His name tag reads, Conductor Whistleworth, though he carries no whistle, only a teacup. Good day to you, he says in a calm, unhurried tone. 1 ticket for the sleepy railway to nowhere? You nod. Nowhere sounds perfect. He beams. That's what most people say. He gestures toward the open door. Come aboard. We run on the scenic delay schedule. No rush, no fuss, and frequent stops for contemplation. You step into the carriage and immediately feel enveloped in tranquility. The seats are upholstered in soft velvet, the walls paneled with oak polished by years of gentle use. A faint smell of mint tea lingers in the air, and a gramophone in the corner plays something that sounds like a lullaby for clouds. A few passengers sit scattered about a painter, gazing dreamily out the window, an elderly couple sharing biscuits, a tabby cat curled on a pile of newspapers. Conductor Whistleworth moves quietly down the aisle, checking imaginary tickets. "We'll be departing shortly," he says. Once the engineer wakes up, you smile. "How long will the journey take?" He shrugs pleasantly. "As long as it needs to." A soft whistle from the train itself, not the conductor, echoes through the valley. The engine releases a sigh, and the train begins to move slowly, peacefully, like a drifting thought. The world outside slides past in a blur of wildflowers and sunlight. You settle into your seat and watch. The landscape unfolds like a painting. Rolling hills, silver streams, cottages with ivy climbing their walls. Sheep graze lazily in distant fields. Every so often, the train passes through a small station: Drowse Junction, Slumber Halt, Yawnington Crossing, but no one gets on or off. The platform clocks have all stopped at different times, as if each one decided to keep its own pace. After a while, Conductor Whistleworth returns, carrying a tray of teacups. "Complimentary tea," he says. "We brew it fresh between every nap." You take one, breathing in the aroma of chamomile and lemon balm. The first sip is like sunlight melting on your tongue. Across from you, the painter sets down his brush and smiles. "Beautiful day for not arriving anywhere," he says. You laugh softly. "Do you travel often?" "Oh, constantly," he replies. "Everywhere I go, I find more places worth lingering in." He nods toward the window. "That's the thing about the Yawnshire line. It doesn't take you away from peace, it carries you deeper into it." The train chugs on, passing through a long tunnel where the sound echoes gently, like a sigh repeating itself. When it emerges again, the view changes now. The track winds along a sparkling lake where lily pads float like tiny green boats. Ducks drift by, unbothered, their reflections perfectly still in the water. The conductor leans toward you. "This lake," he says, "is called Reflection Pond. Legend says it was formed the day the two armies of the Great Yawnish War tried to build a bridge and forgot halfway through. The unfinished structure collapsed politely, and the hole filled with rainwater." You chuckle. "And no one ever finished the bridge?" He shakes his head proudly. "Why would they? The detour is far more scenic." The train slows as it curves around the lake, its rhythm like a heartbeat, steady, comforting, endless. Outside, you spot a tiny station on the far shore, a single wooden bench, a sign that reads, "Nowhere population, everyone passing through." The conductor taps the window. "That's our destination," or lack thereof. The train glides to a stop, and the doors open with a soft sigh. A breeze drifts through, carrying the faint scent of rain on stone. "Here we are," he says, gesturing grandly. "Welcome to nowhere, where time forgets to move." You step onto the platform. It's utterly silent, except for the faint rustle of cattails in the wind. The platform stretches into nothingness, merging seamlessly with the grass. No buildings, no signs of life, only the vast sky above and the quiet promise of peace. "People come here," the conductor says softly. standing beside you, when they've forgotten how to stop. The trick is to remember that stillness isn't the same as being stuck. Sometimes the soul needs to be still enough to listen to itself. He looks out over the water. Even trains, you see, need somewhere to rest. You glance back at the carriages. The passengers remain inside, sipping tea, sketching, dozing, each of them perfectly content in their own little pocket of stillness. Will the train leave again, you ask? Oh, eventually, he says, once we've all had enough of not going anywhere. You both laugh quietly. Then, as the wind shifts, he tips his cap. Take your time, traveler. The return journey waits for no one, which is to say, it waits for everyone. He steps back onto the train, which releases a slow, contented puff of steam. The doors close, the whistle hums, and the carriages begin to glide away, unhurried, unbothered, disappearing into the golden horizon. You remain standing on the platform, watching until the train is just a speck, then nothing. The air feels sacred in its quiet. You sit down on the wooden bench, breathe deeply, and feel yourself dissolving into the moment. The lake ripples faintly, the reeds sway, and for the first time, you understand what Queen Drowsabel meant, that peace isn't a place you reach. It's what arrives when you stop trying. You close your eyes. The world seems to hum gently beneath you, soft and endless, and somewhere, in the distance, another train sighs into being, already late, but exactly on time. When you open your eyes again, the air feels heavier, not dark, but thick with the sweetness of dusk. The world is quieter than before. The lake beside the platform glows like glass, catching the last orange light of the day. You stretch, realizing you don't remember how long you've been sitting there. An hour, perhaps a lifetime. In Yawnshire, such distinctions don't seem to matter. A faint path leads away from the platform, bordered by low shrubs and flowers that gleam faintly under the lowering Sunday. Something about it invites you forward, not urgently, but softly, as if whispering, "Come, see where the day goes to rest." You follow. The path is lined with round stones, half covered in moss. The deeper you walk, the more golden the air becomes. The light feels warm against your skin, like the gentle touch of a memory. The hum of insects slows until it's little more than a dream of sound. At last, you step through an archway woven from vines and old tree roots. Beyond it lies a garden so still you wonder if even the wind has decided to stop. The sign above the archway reads, "The garden where time fell asleep." The space is vast, but enclosed by ivy-covered walls. The trees are tall and silver green, their leaves unmoving. Petals lie scattered across the path like snowflakes that forgot to melt. In the center stands a fountain, its water barely trickling, reflecting the pale blush of the sunset. You approach, and something extraordinary happens. You notice that the droplets of water hang suspended in midair, frozen mid-fall, glinting like crystal. You blink, but they don't move. Neither does the light, neither do the shadows. It is as if time itself has taken a deep breath and never exhaled. A voice breaks the stillness. "Careful now," it says softly. "The air here is delicate." You turn and see an elderly gardener kneeling beside a bed of roses that never seem to wilt. His beard is long and silver, his hands covered in the soft dust of eternity. He looks up at you with eyes that hold centuries of rest. "I'm Keeper Mossroot," he says, smiling gently, "caretaker of the garden, though it mostly tends itself. You've come to a place outside the ticking of things. You glance around. What happened here? He chuckles, brushing soil from his palms. Ah, the great nap of Yawnshire. You've heard of the war that never was well. This is where it ended, or rather, where it simply stopped existing. You sit on the edge of a stone bench, the air so still it feels like sitting inside a held breath. During the final days of the Great Yawnshire War, Mosroot continues, the two armies met here. They'd long since given up on fighting, you see, but they hadn't yet figured out how to end the war properly. Everyone agreed it seemed rude to just wander off. He grins. So, they decided to hold one last meeting, a grand conclusion. They sat down beneath these trees to discuss terms, but it was so quiet and the breeze so soothing that someone began to nod off. Then another. Within minutes, every soldier, every general, every diplomat, asleep. You smile, imagining it. Mosroot leans closer, his voice low and rhythmic, and when they did, something marvelous occurred. Time, loyal creature that it is, didn't want to disturb them, so it stopped, completely, just waited, and by the time the last of them woke, the war had faded into legend. He gestures around the garden. That's why everything here stands just so. Even the flowers never droop. The sun never quite sets. Time fell asleep with them, and we never had the heart to wake it. You gaze up at the sky. It is caught perpetually between sunset and twilight, painted in slow-moving shades of pink and gold that never fade. The air feels endless. Do you tend to it alone? You ask. Oh no, Mosroot says, smiling faintly. I'm not alone at all. He taps the ground, and for the first time, you notice figures scattered throughout the garden. Soldiers, villagers, musicians, all made of gentle stone. Their faces are peaceful, eyes closed, hands folded, as if in prayer or mid-dream. They sit at tables, lean against trees, recline on the grass, frozen in perfect rest. They aren't statues, Mosroot says quietly. They're sleepers, the first dreamers of the great truce. The enchantment keeps them between breaths, forever safe, forever serene. You stand and walk among them. A woman rests her head on her arm beside a harp whose strings shimmer with frozen notes. A baker lies beside a basket of loaves that never stale. Two children sit by a board game halfway through, their tiny fingers poised above unmoved pieces. It's beautiful, you whisper. He nods. Peace often is, once you stop expecting it to move. He returns to trimming a bush whose blossoms hum faintly, like lullabies caught in petals. I've been here a long time, he adds. My duty is simple. Keep the garden gentle, keep the silence unbroken, keep the spell content. You glance around. Does time ever stir? Sometimes, Mosroot admits. When visitors arrive, it twitches a little curious perhaps, but the garden always sighs and settles again. You can't rush something that's decided to rest forever. He straightens slowly, wipes his hands on his apron, and regards you kindly. You have the look of someone who hasn't rested in many seasons. Most travelers do. They think they're searching for meaning, but they're really searching for permission to pause. You meet his gaze, and for a moment, you feel as though he can see right through your days, all the hurry, all the trying. I came here without knowing why, you admit softly. And now, you look around at the still fountain, the unmoving sunlight, the quiet stone dreamers. Now, I think I understand. He nods approvingly. Good, then you may stay for a while. You won't disturb them. They like company, even if they can't open their eyes. He walks toward a small tree, and plucks something from one of its branches, a silver fruit shaped like a heart. He hands it to you, the fruit of the timeless tree. Take a bite, if you wish. It tastes like the memory of rest. You do. It's cool and soft, melting instantly on your tongue, and suddenly everything, your heartbeat, your thoughts, your breath, slows to a tranquil rhythm. The fountain hums faintly. The air feels like velvet. The sky seems to cradle you. Keeper Mossroot settles on his bench again. Stay as long as you need, he says. When you're ready to leave, the path will reappear. You nod, though you're not sure you'll want to. You sit beneath the timeless tree, lean back against its bark, and watch the half-set sun hang above the horizon. The light never fades. The air never chills. The garden hums, alive but motionless, a perfect moment stretched into forever. And as your eyes drift closed, you feel as though you've joined them all, the dreamers, the soldiers, the musicians, resting together in a silence too deep for time to disturb. When you awaken, it's impossible to tell how much time has passed, or whether time has passed at all. The garden still glows with the same unchanging twilight. The air still hums with that soft, endless peace, but something feels subtly different. A sound now breaks the silence, faint and delicate, like a heartbeat made of metal. Tick, tock, tick, tock. You rise slowly, the silver fruit's aftertaste still lingering on your tongue like moonlight. Following the sound, you leave the garden where time fell asleep, passing beneath the vine-covered arch. As soon as you cross it, you feel a shift, a gentle stirring, as if time is yawning after a very long nap. The air grows cooler as you walk. The path narrows into a cobbled lane lined with wild rosemary and lamplight that glows golden under a dusky sky. The ticking grows louder, rhythmic, patient, yet somehow hesitant, as though the very concept of time is remembering itself in small, careful increments. At last, you come to a small cottage built against the side of a hill. Its sign sways gently on a chain. The Whispering Clockmaker repairs for things that no longer wish to hurry. A soft trail of smoke curls from the chimney, carrying the smell of oak and lavender oil. You push open the door, and a bell above gives a single, lazy tink. Inside, the air is filled with a soft, musical ticking, hundreds of clocks, all whispering at slightly different tempos. Some tick once a minute, others once an hour. A few seem to pause mid-tick, as though distracted. The shelves are lined with brass gears, glass domes, and half-finished pocket watches that gleam faintly in the amber light. Behind the counter stands a tall, thin man with a magnifying lens balanced over one eye and silver hair that falls in gentle curls. His hands move with impossible slowness, deliberate, graceful, like a conductor leading an invisible orchestra. "Ah," he says without looking up, "a traveler from beyond the valley. I could tell by your footsteps they still remember haste." You smile faintly. "You must be the clockmaker." He lifts his gaze. His eyes are soft, grey, calm as still water. "Indeed, I am Horace Tick-Tock, at your service. Though service here is a quiet thing, most of my customers don't ask me to fix time. They ask me to let it rest." He gestures for you to come closer. The counter is covered in delicate instruments, springs, screws, tiny brushes, and a teacup whose steam curls as slowly as smoke from a candle. You glance around. All these clocks, they're beautiful, but none of them sound quite right. He smiles knowingly. "That's because they aren't meant to. You see, the clocks of Yawnshire measure peace, not progress. Each one ticks only when someone nearby takes a deep breath. You listen closely. The ticks around you seem to form a rhythm that mirrors your breathing. Tick, tock, inhale, exhale. The sound is hypnotic. He picks up a pocket watch from the table and opens it. Inside, instead of numbers, it has a spiral of soft colors that swirl when you breathe. This one belonged to General Tumble, he says with a fond smile. He brought it to me after the Great Yawnish War ended. Said it kept perfect time until he learned not to care about time at all. He sets it down gently and leans on the counter. The war changed everything, you know, not through victory or defeat, but through stillness. It was the first moment the world realized that peace doesn't begin when fighting stops. It begins when waiting stops. You let his words settle in your mind. The ticking around you softens, as if listening. Would you like to see something special? He asks, after a moment. You nod. He disappears into the back room and returns with a large clock, unlike any you've seen. Its face is made of pale wood, its hands of glass. The pendulum swings so slowly that it's impossible to tell whether it's moving or dreaming. This, he says reverently, is the heart of the valley. It was built the day after the Great Yawnish War. Legend says that when the armies laid down their weapons, the valley sighed, and this clock began to tick for the first time. He runs his hand along its frame. It keeps no hours. It measures serenity. Each swing of the pendulum marks one moment in which someone, somewhere in Yawnshire, feels truly at ease. You watch it sway, slow, graceful, endless. Sometimes, he continues, it doesn't move for days. Sometimes it ticks constantly, but lately, he smiles faintly, it's been ticking again. You look at him curiously. Why now? He studies you for a moment, his grey eyes kind but sharp. Because someone new arrived, someone who's learning to rest. The valley listens, you see. When you breathe slowly, it breathes with you. You feel warmth spread through you, quiet recognition, gentle truth. Horace nods toward a stool by the hearth. Would you sit for a bit? I need to wind a few clocks that prefer company. You sit. The room glows with the firelight, the faint ticking blending with the crackle of the wood. On a nearby shelf, a small clock shaped like a snail moves 1 minute forward, then takes a break for 3. Horace hums as he works. It's a simple tune, circular, comforting. People once thought of time as a marching soldier, he says without looking up, always forward, always commanding. But here in Yawnshire, we discovered something different. Time isn't a commander, it's a companion. It walks beside you when you let it. You watch him tighten a screw with exaggerated patience. And what happens, you ask quietly, when time walks too slowly? He looks up and smiles. Then you've finally caught up to it. He closes the clock gently, wipes his hands, and sets the tool down. Would you like a keepsake? He opens a drawer and takes out a small pendant, a miniature pocket watch on a chain. When he presses its side, instead of ticking, it sighs softly, like wind through grass. Carry this, he says, placing it in your palm. It will remind you to pause. It doesn't measure minutes, only moments. When you remember to be still, you close your hand around it. The metal feels warm, alive somehow. Horace nods once. Now, the road ahead will take you east toward the Bridge of Returning. But don't rush there. The bridge waits patiently, as bridges do. He glances toward the window, where twilight deepens into silver night. Sleep under the stars tonight. they've missed you. You thank him, and he bows his head in quiet farewell. As you step outside, the cool night air wraps around you. The valley stretches endlessly below soft hills, glowing with moonlight, fireflies drifting like slow-moving embers. The ticking of the clocks fades behind you until it blends perfectly with the rhythm of your own heart. You walk, feeling that strange peace settle deeper within you, the kind of stillness that doesn't ask for anything, doesn't hurry, doesn't end. Somewhere far behind, the whispering clockmaker hums to his clocks, and the heart of the valley swings once more. Tick, tock, the road east unfolds like a ribbon of moonlight. You walk slowly, the pendant from the whispering clockmaker resting warm against your chest, pulsing faintly in rhythm with your breath. The night air smells of rain on stone and distant hearth smoke, that faint, homeward kind of scent that makes you think of blankets and candlelight and cups left half full on a table. Above, the stars drift lazily, as if even constellations in Yawnshire move at their own unhurried pace. You follow the sound of a river somewhere ahead, a low, steady murmur like a lullaby whispered to the earth. The path curves gently downward, and soon you see it, a bridge spanning the water, silvered by moonlight. The sign at its entrance reads, "The Bridge of Returning Cross, only when you remember where you came from." The bridge itself is made of smooth stone, wide enough for two people to walk side by side. Lanterns line its railings, their light a soft amber glow reflected in the slow-moving current below. The water beneath doesn't rush, it drifts, curling and folding around its own reflections like someone turning over in sleep. As you step onto the bridge, your footsteps echo softly. Each sound seems to stretch longer than it should, as though time here still obeys the valley's gentle rhythm. You pause halfway, leaning over the railing. The surface of the river mirrors the moon so clearly that for a moment you can't tell which is the real sky. The night feels endless, safe, vast. Then, from somewhere in the mist, a figure emerges, a man walking toward you from the far end of the bridge. His silhouette wavers slightly in the lantern light, as if he's half reflection, half memory. When he draws nearer, you recognize him. General Tumble, the wise old tortoise you met on your first night in Yawnshire. He still wears his dandelion fluff cap, though it's grown a little frayed. "Ah," he says with a slow smile, "so you've made it all the way to the edge." You bow your head in greeting. "I wasn't sure there was an edge in Yawnshire." He chuckles, a sound like dry leaves sliding over one another. "Edges here are more like pauses. You don't fall off them, you just find somewhere new to rest." He joins you at the railing, peering down at the river. "You know, this bridge was built right after the Great Yawnshire War. The two sides decided they needed something to symbolize their truce. They planned a grand monument, but of course," he grins, "they got sleepy halfway through, so they built half a bridge from each side, and when the two halves met, they simply stopped, perfectly even, perfectly done enough." You laugh softly. "It's beautiful. Peace often is," he says. "It just takes longer to notice." The old tortoise leans against the railing, eyes half closed. "This is where I retired, you know, after the war. Every day I walk halfway across and then turn back again. No need to go anywhere, the view is already enough." He gestures toward the lanterns flickering along the water. They say the river carries dreams downstream, to the places people forget they need them. Everything we rest here eventually drifts out into the waking world. You watch as small petals float past tiny fragments of light and color, gliding along the current. "Dreams," you whisper. He nods. "And reminders, The world beyond Yawnshire still rushes, still fights, still hurries to be finished. But every once in a while, someone pauses maybe to sip their tea slowly, or to listen to rain on their window, and they feel it. A bit of us, the peace we built by doing nothing at all. The two of you stand there quietly, watching the petals drift. The air is perfectly still, and yet alive. You feel it deep in your chest, that stillness that hums like music with no beginning or end. Do you know, General Tumble says after a while, why it's called the Bridge of Returning? You shake your head. He taps his shell with one slow finger, because when you cross it, you don't go back to where you were, you go back to yourself. That's the journey every traveler in Yawnshire makes. Not forward, not backward, but inward. You lean on the railing beside him, eyes half closed, breathing in the cool scent of the water. And when I cross it, will I leave the valley? The tortoise smiles. Only the parts of you that no longer need to stay. He takes off his cap and sets it gently on the railing. You see, no one really leaves Yawnshire. We just take its pace with us. The world beyond will still spin, clocks will still tick, people will still hurry. But if you listen closely, you'll hear this place under it all, the hum beneath the noise, the silence between seconds. He turns to you, and that silence, that's where you'll always find home. You watch the river shimmer below, feeling something stir, not sadness, not joy, but something quieter than both, the kind of peace that feels like being known without needing to speak. General Tumble sighs contentedly. If you ever grow tired again, the bridge will find you, in a dream, in a moment of stillness, perhaps in the space between two thoughts. We never really say goodbye here. He tips his head, the moonlight catching the edge of his shell. Now go on. The east bank leads to the hills of rest. You'll find the end of the story there, though endings here are more like deep breaths. You thank him quietly. The words feel small beside the vast calm of the moment. He waves a slow hand. Walk gently, and if you pass the Queen again, tell her I still owe her a cup of tea. You smile. Begin walking across the rest of the bridge. The lanterns flicker softly as you pass one by one, their glow following you like a trail of kindness. Halfway across, you glance back. General Tumble is still there, watching the water. He lifts his cap in farewell. Then the mist rolls in, and he fades like a dream returning to sleep. The air on the far side of the bridge feels different, lighter, tinged with morning though the moon still hangs above. The path ahead glows faintly, winding upward into the hills. Somewhere beyond, you can almost hear music, distant, gentle, like wind brushing the strings of the world. You take a breath and step forward, your pendant sighing softly in your hand. The bridge behind you hums, not a goodbye, but a promise. The air changes as you step off the Bridge of Returning. It feels lighter now, thinner and cleaner, as if every breath has been filtered through years of stillness. The faint music you heard earlier grows clearer, a lilting tune carried by the wind, made not by instruments, but by the soft rustle of long grass. Before you stretches a series of gentle, rolling hills. They glow in the moonlight like soft waves, and when the breeze moves over them, they seem to sigh in unison. Here and there you can see small cottages, their windows glowing like lanterns set into the earth. The path leads upward, winding between mounds of wild thyme, dandelions, and tiny white flowers that release a faint, sweet perfume every time you brush against them. You begin the climb, feeling no hurry, only curiosity. The world feels very large, and yet somehow intimate, like it's aware of you, welcoming you. The pendant at your chest gives a single soft sigh, and the air hums faintly in response. Halfway up the hill, you come across a small wooden sign leaning at an angle. It reads, "Welcome to the hills of rest, where even the wind pauses to breathe." And indeed, when you listen closely, the wind here doesn't rush. It moves, like something content simply to exist. As you crest the next rise, you notice someone sitting beneath an old oak tree. A woman in a long linen cloak, hair silver like moonlight. She's humming a low, slow tune while painting something on a wide canvas stretched between two stones. She looks up as you approach and smiles. "Ah, a traveler," she says softly. "You've made it far. Not many reach the hills. Most fall asleep somewhere along the way." You smile back. "I nearly did, more than once." "Then you're one of the good ones," she says, setting down her brush. "The hills only welcome those who've learned not to rush toward them." Her name, as you soon learn, is Mira Dreamwell, the valley's painter of peace. Around her, the grass is sprinkled with canvases, some finished, others half filled with lazy brushstrokes. Every painting shows a different part of Yawnshire: the orchard, the sleeping garden, the slow train on its tracks, even the tortoise on his bridge. But none of them look frozen. They seem to breathe. She sees you looking. "I paint the stillness between moments," she explains. "Most painters chase light or color. I chase the quiet that happens after." She picks up a small brush and dips it into a jar of pale gold paint. "Would you like me to paint you?" You blink. "Me?" She nods. "Everyone who reaches the hills of rest deserves to be remembered. But don't worry, I won't capture your face, only your peace." Intrigued, you sit on the grass while she studies you. The sky above is scattered, with stars that seem close enough to touch, and the moonlight drapes everything in silver calm. The grass sways gently, making a sound like whispering lullabies. Mira's brush moves slowly, lazily, like a feather drifting in water. "You've been carrying the valley's rhythm," she says after a while. "I can see it. In your shoulders, your breathing, even your silence sounds rested." You watch her paint. Her strokes are deliberate but soft. Each one seems to hum as it touches the canvas. "Does everyone who comes here get painted?" you ask. "Not everyone," she says. "Only those who understand what peace is for." "And what is it for?" She pauses, her brush hovering midair. "For remembering," she says finally. "Peace doesn't erase what came before. It remembers it softly, until even the hard parts sound like lullabies." You let the words sink in. Around you, the hills rise and fall like the slow breathing of a sleeping world. When she finishes, she turns the canvas toward you. You expect to see your portrait, but instead you see something else, a glowing field of light and mist, and in the middle of it, a faint silhouette sitting beneath an oak tree, surrounded by wind. "It's not exactly you," Mira says, "but it's what the valley sees when it looks your way." The painting feels alive. You can almost hear it breathe. She signs it with a flourish of silver paint. Every soul who reaches the hills of rest leaves their stillness behind. It becomes part of the land, the songs, the dreams. One day, someone else will sit where you're sitting now and feel your calm without knowing why. You watch her prop the painting against a stone where the night air dries it slowly. A warm light catches your eye, a small lantern flickering at the top of the highest hill. "What's up there?" you ask. "The end of roads," she says, smiling knowingly, "where the valley gives its final lesson." You tilt your head. A final lesson? Mira nods. Every traveler who's walked Yawnshire eventually climbs that hill. They find what they came for, though it's never what they expect. Some see memories, some hear music, some simply rest. Her eyes soften. But not yet. Rest here first. The hill waits for those who no longer feel the need to reach it. You smile and lie back on the grass. The earth is soft beneath you, the stars steady above. You can hear the whisper of the wind weaving through the blades, like 1,000 tiny lullabies. The air smells faintly of time, and the faint metallic sweetness of night dew. You feel yourself growing heavier, not in body, but in mind, weighted down by peace. Mira hums quietly as she gathers her brushes. Sleep, traveler. The hill will be there when you wake. It always is. You close your eyes. The sound of the wind blends with her voice, and then with the beating of your heart. The hills seem to rock you gently, like a cradle. You dream, but the dream feels like a memory of calm, rather than a story. You see the slow train gliding past Reflection Pond, the library glowing under golden light, the queen of the unhurried raising her teacup in a toast to the still sky. You see the bridge, the garden, the tortoise, the clocks all moving at the same infinite rhythm, and then you see yourself walking, resting, breathing part of the valley at last. When you wake, the stars have faded, replaced by the first pale blue of morning. The lantern at the top of the far hill still burns, but its light is softer now, more inviting than mysterious. You rise slowly, stretch, and turn to thank Mira Dreamwell, but she's gone. Only her easel remains, and beside it, the painting she made of you. The colors have dried overnight, glowing softly like sunlight trapped in mist. You smile, touch the edge of the frame, and whisper a quiet thank you to the empty air. Then you turn toward the path that leads up the last hill. The air is still, but alive, as if holding its breath for whatever comes next. The end of roads awaits. Morning arrives in a whisper. The sky blushes in soft colors, pale rose, amber, and a hint of lavender melting into one another. Dew gathers on every blade of grass, catching the first sunlight like tiny lanterns. The world seems to hum quietly, as if remembering its favorite melody. You begin walking toward the top of the hill, the end of roads. The path ahead glows faintly, as though the valley itself has decided to light your way. Your steps make almost no sound, and yet each one feels perfectly placed, as though you are walking in rhythm with something ancient and kind. The climb is gentle, winding between bushes of heather and small wild poppies. The air smells of mint and rain. Here and there, you notice little details that seem both ordinary and magical. A stone carved with spirals, a feather stuck upright in the soil, a bird sleeping with its beak tucked beneath its wing. There's no sense of urgency, no feeling of needing to arrive. The hill seems to pull you upward with the same patience as the valley's river carries petals downstream, slow, steady, inevitable. At last, you reach the summit. The view takes your breath away, not because of grandeur, but because of how still it is. Yawnshire stretches endlessly below, every part of it touched by the morning light. The orchard, where Queen Drowsabel sips her tea, the library nestled against the hillside, the glimmer of the Bridge of Returning, and beyond it, the faint smoke from Lady Pillowdown's inn. The entire valley looks like a single heartbeat, slow, steady, eternal. At the very top of the hill sits a small stone circle. In its center stands a single wooden chair carved from pale oak. On its back, engraved words read, Sit and let the world move without you. For a while, you smile softly and obey. The chair is cool to the touch, yet comforting, as if 1,000 dreamers have rested here before you. The wind curls around your shoulders like a shawl. For a long time, you do nothing, just breathe, and that's when you notice it. The air here has a sound faint, like music made of distance. It isn't coming from any instrument, yet it surrounds you. You realize it's not a song sung to you, but by the valley itself, the sigh of the river, the hum of bees, the memory of laughter in the orchards, the slow ticking from the clockmaker's shop, the rustle of grass where dreamers sleep. All of it together forms a melody that feels infinite and gentle. You close your eyes and the sound grows clearer. It feels like being remembered by something bigger than time. Then a voice, soft and familiar, speaks behind you. Beautiful, isn't it? You turn, and there stands Queen Drowsabel, her crown of daisies glimmering faintly in the light. Her robe trails like fog, and her eyes gleam with the calm wisdom of the valley itself. You've come far, traveler, she says, walking to stand beside you, farther than most realize they can go without ever hurrying. You bow your head slightly. I didn't mean to travel this far. I only kept walking. That, she says, is exactly how one arrives. She sits in the grass beside you, smoothing her skirt. The scent of lavender and baked apples follows her. The end of roads isn't a place to finish. It's a place to remember how gently everything connects. Look, she gestures toward the valley below. The sunlight deepens. In that light, you begin to see faint silver lines, threads of energy, weaving from one place to another, from Lady Pillowdown's inn to the tortoise's porch, from the library to the clockmaker's shop, from the orchard to this very hill. The entire valley glows like a woven fabric of stillness, every moment tied to every other. Every peaceful act, the queen murmurs, weaves another thread. Every breath that slows, every worry that softens, every choice not to rush it, all strengthens the valley. That's how it survived for so long. That's how the great Yawnshire War ended before it began. You watch in awe as the silver lines pulse gently, in perfect harmony with your own heartbeat. So the war wasn't really about sheep or tea, was it? She smiles. No, it was about learning what matters enough to keep and what matters enough to let go. The world beyond Yawnshire still forgets that lesson sometimes, but we send reminders in raindrops, in quiet mornings, in the urge to pause mid-breath. You felt it before, haven't you? In the world you came from? You think of moments small, fragile, but real, standing still in falling snow, watching steam curl from a teacup, sitting beside a window during rain. The feeling that, for a heartbeat, the world stopped demanding things of you. You nod. I think I have. The Queen looks at you kindly. Then you already belong here not to live, but to carry it with you. Yawnshire doesn't keep its travelers. It plants them like seeds in the wide, restless world. Wherever you go next, you'll bring this stillness with you. You'll remind others that it's allowed the quiet, the pause, the gentle nothing that grows everything. You swallow the lump in your throat. I don't know if I'll remember. She reaches out and touches the pendant around your neck. You will. Listen. It sighs every time you do. You both fall silent. The valley's melody deepens, becoming so soft that it feels as though it's humming inside your chest. Then, Queen Drowsabel stands. I must go now. Morning doesn't last forever, even here, but you may sit as long as you wish. The The world will wait. You watch her walk down the hill, her figure dissolving into sunlight until she becomes part of the landscape itself. You stay seated. The chair feels weightless beneath you. You look out over the valley, glowing gold now as the day fully wakes. The light feels alive, as if bowing in gratitude to every dreamer who ever learned how to stop. You realize something profound. The most boring war ever fought was never boring at all. It was the only war that truly ended, because it ended in peace. No one won, no one lost, and because of that, everyone rested. The breeze stirs gently, lifting your hair. You breathe in deeply, letting the scent of the valley, honey, dew, earth, and tea fill your lungs. Then, without effort or intention, your eyes close. For a long while, you simply sit, breathing with the world, and somewhere, faint but certain, the valley whispers back, peace is not the absence of movement. It is the movement that needs no purpose. The words settle inside you, deep and still, until they feel like your own. You don't know how long you sit in that chair atop the hill. The sunlight shifts gently, not in hours, but in colors. Soft gold becomes rose, rose becomes violet, and then, somewhere between afternoon and dreamlight, the valley below begins to shimmer with faint lanterns. It's subtle at first, a few pinpricks of light, flickering to life near Lady Pillowdown's inn. Then the glow of the orchard, the faint golden windows of the library of forgotten deeds. Then, all at once, Yawnshire awakens, not in sound or bustle, but in gentle radiance. The valley is alive again. The festival of stillness has begun. You remember the Professor Humbledrum mentioning it long ago in the Field of Almost, a festival celebrating the day nothing happened, the day the war decided to rest. You hadn't realized it would look like this, a valley bathed in quiet joy. From the hilltop, you can see people gathering, villagers, dreamers, tortoises, clockmakers, queens, all moving slowly, gracefully, as if they're dancing to music too peaceful to rush. The soft hum of laughter drifts upward, mingling with the scent of warm bread and night flowers. You rise from the chair and make your way down the winding path. Fireflies drift beside you, lighting your way like tiny stars who've decided to visit the earth for the evening. By the time you reach the valley floor, the festival is in full bloom, though full bloom in Yawnshire means something far gentler than trumpets or cheers. The streets glow with strings of lanterns made from hollowed gourds, painted with scenes of sleeping animals, drifting clouds, and teacups floating on rivers of honey. Music hums through the air, slow fiddles, harps, and the soft chime of wind bells. No one rushes to dance. They simply sway or sit in circles, sipping from steaming mugs. Children chase bubbles that float so slowly they seem suspended between heartbeats. You pass a stall where a baker offers pastries shaped like pillows, another where an old man sells jars of freshly caught yarns. Each time you stop to watch, someone smiles and nods, inviting you to linger as long as you wish. Near the center of the square stands a large circular fountain, not the kind that sprays water upward, but one that drifts outward in lazy ripples, like a pond deciding to breathe. Around it, people sit and tell stories. You approach, and the familiar voice of Lady Pillowdown rises above the gentle chatter. And when they woke, she says, waving a pastry for emphasis, no one could remember who had started the war in the first place. So, we decided to commemorate the grand achievement of forgetting entirely. The listeners chuckle softly. You recognize faces among them: Professor Humbledrum with his donkey philosophy nibbling at clover, Curator Bipple from the museum polishing a spoon instead of a doorknob, and Mira Dreamwell, the painter from the hills, her fingers stained in silver and gold. Even the Whispering Clockmaker stands nearby, holding a cup of tea and nodding in rhythm with the slow beat of time. Lady Pillardown spots you and beams. "Traveler," she calls warmly, "you made it. Come, come, join the least eventful celebration in history." You laugh, sitting beside her. "I didn't think festivals could be so quiet." She nods proudly. "That's the point, dear. Every year we gather to do absolutely nothing together." Across the fountain, a small group begins a parade, a line of villagers carrying banners that simply read, "Yawn proudly," and we almost did it. They march so slowly that a snail could lead the procession and still outpace them. The crowd applauds politely. General Tumble appears then, wearing his dandelion fluff cap, freshly brushed. He waves from the back of the parade, which seems fitting as the parade itself loops endlessly in no particular direction. "Good evening, traveler," he calls. "Lovely weather for postponing things, isn't it?" You smile. "Perfect." Queen Drowsabel arrives next, her crown of daisies glowing faintly under the lanterns. The villagers bow slightly, not out of duty, but affection. She carries a teapot so large that even Captain Snorbury, standing nearby, has to help pour. The tea smells of honey and herbs. "Tonight," she says, her voice carrying like a lullaby through the crowd, "we remember that peace began not with a treaty, but with a yawn." Everyone smiles, many of them yawning right on cue. The Queen raises her cup to the war that never was, and to all who rest because of it. Dozens of teacups clink softly in reply. Music swells: slow flutes, soft strings, and the hum of the crowd joining in harmony. Mira Dreamwell begins to unfurl enormous cloth banners she's painted, each depicting a moment from the valley's story. The 2 sleepy armies, the unfinished bridge, the frozen garden, the clockmaker's shop. The colors shimmer under lantern light, more dream than pigment. Lady Pillowdown nudges you. "This is the best part," she whispers. "At the height of the festival, we release the yawns." "The yawns?" you echo. She points to the jars you'd seen earlier. Dozens of villagers hold them now, their lids glowing faintly. One by one, they open them. A gentle breeze flows through the square as invisible sighs escape a soft collective exhale that makes the lanterns flicker and the air feel even lighter. As it passes over you, your body relaxes so completely that it's as if the valley itself has reached out and smoothed every wrinkle from your soul. All around, people close their eyes, smiling. Some hum, some sway, some simply breathe. Then, slowly, the music fades, the laughter quiets, the lanterns dim until only the moon remains, bright and round above Yawnshire. Queen Drowsabel speaks again, her tone soft enough to hush even the river. "We thank the dreamers who came before and the ones who come after. The valley remembers you, even when you forget it." She looks directly at you. "And tonight, traveler, it remembers you most of all." A warmth spreads through your chest, gentle but deep. You glance around. Every face you've met on this journey looks back at you with quiet affection. Lady Pillowdown, the professor, the clockmaker, the gardener, the queen, even the statues from the sleeping garden seem to shimmer faintly in your mind's eye, smiling in their dreams. The music returns one final, slow refrain. The entire valley hums in harmony, not as noise, but as a single note of contentment. You feel it vibrate through your body, through the ground, through the air itself. Then, slowly, it fades. People yawn, stretch, and begin to wander home, not because the night is over, but because they know that peace, once found, doesn't need to be guarded. It just needs to be remembered. Lady Pillowdown pats your hand. "You've done well to come this far," she says kindly. "Not everyone can travel so slowly." You laugh softly. "I think I've learned from the best." She smiles. "Sleep well, traveler. The valley is proud of your stillness." You nod, and as you look up, you see fireflies rising into the night, like stars returning home. The air feels soft against your skin, like the valley's last gentle good night. The night stretches deep and velvet soft after the festival of stillness. The lanterns fade one by one, leaving only the silver wash of moonlight gliding across the rooftops of Yawnshire. The cobblestones gleam faintly with dew. The air smells of tea leaves and warm bread cooling in distant kitchens. You walk slowly through the quiet streets, your feet barely making a sound. The laughter and music from earlier have settled into silence, but it's the kind of silence that feels alive, like the world is breathing in its sleep. Every window glows faintly. In some, you see shadows of people moving, a baker folding his apron, a child being tucked beneath a quilt, an old woman setting a kettle for the morning that hasn't arrived yet. Even the cats look too content to bother chasing the moths that circle lazily under the street lamps. You find yourself wandering toward the river again, drawn by its low and constant murmur. The bridge of returning shimmers ahead, a long ribbon of reflected moonlight. You cross halfway and pause, leaning on the railing. The water drifts beneath you like liquid glass, carrying along a slow parade of petals left from the festival. They spin gently, drifting downstream toward wherever dreams go when they've done their work. A faint sound breaks the stillness, the soft click, tick, sigh of a familiar rhythm. You glance down and realize your pendant, the little pocket watch the Whispering Clockmaker gave you, is glowing faintly. You lift it, and the metal hums warmly in your palm. When you press the side of it, it releases a single sound, a yawn, a quiet, contented yawn, unmistakably alive, as if the valley itself is settling under its blanket. You laugh softly, the sound barely a breath. "Even time gets sleepy here," you whisper. A voice answers from behind you. "Of course it does. It's been keeping you company all this way." You turn, and standing at the far end of the bridge is Queen Drowsabel once more, her daisy crown glowing faintly under the moon. Beside her stands General Tumble, slow and steady, and Lady Pillowdown, wrapped in her soft shawl, carrying a tray of teacups that somehow haven't spilled despite the journey. Behind them, others begin to appear. Mira Dreamwell, her hands still flecked with silver paint, Professor Humbledrum with Philosophy the donkey, Curator Bipple with his paint, streaked spectacles, even Keeper Mossroot, brushing a few petals of eternity from his sleeves. They don't walk toward you, they drift, as if carried by the night itself. When they reach you, they arrange themselves quietly along the bridge, leaning on the railing, looking out at the water. "This is how the festival ends," Lady Pillowdown says softly, "with everyone together, remembering nothing in particular." General Tumble nods solemnly. "The final yawn." You tilt your head. "The final yawn? Oh yes," the Queen says, eyes twinkling. "It's tradition. Before dawn arrives, we gather at the bridge, the same bridge that once divided the two sides of the Great Yawnish War, and we breathe together, one big yawn, for old time's sake." Curator Bipple chuckles. It's the only tradition we've never forgotten, mostly because it requires no effort. The group laughs quietly, and even the donkey gives a sleepy bray that sounds suspiciously like agreement. Queen Drowsabel raises her hand. When you hear the water's sigh match your own, that's when we begin. You listen. The river murmurs beneath the bridge, slow, rhythmic, timeless. The sound of peace flowing. Then, one by one, they begin to yawn. Not loud, not exaggerated, just natural, contagious, perfectly timed. Lady Pillowdown first, then the Queen, then General Tumble, whose yawn lasts a full 30 seconds and makes the bridge vibrate softly. Mira Dreamwell follows with a small, graceful sigh. Keeper Mossroot with one that smells faintly of soil and rain, and soon even the air seems to join in, rustling the leaves at the river's edge. You can't help but join them. The moment your mouth opens, something magical happens. The yawn feels endless, yet weightless, like exhaling a lifetime of noise. You feel your whole body settle, your heartbeat slow, your thoughts dissolve into softness. When it ends, no one speaks, no one needs to. The moon slides behind a wisp of cloud, dimming the world into a silvery twilight. The only sound is the whisper of the river and the faint chime of the lanterns swaying on their ropes. Queen Drowsabel breaks the silence with a gentle voice. The final yawn is our farewell to the day that never hurried, and our promise that tomorrow will be just as slow. Lady Pillowdown hands you a cup of tea. You've walked the whole valley, traveler, she says warmly. You've seen its stories, met its dreamers, learned its pace. You've earned your rest now. You sip the tea. It tastes familiar: chamomile, honey, and something else you can't name. Maybe it's the flavor of peace itself. General Tumble lifts his cap. Once you cross the bridge again, you'll return to wherever you began. That's how the spell of Yawnshire works. But don't worry, a bit of the valley always follows you back. The Queen touches your shoulder lightly, and when you find yourself tired, or rushed, or unsure, you'll hear it, a faint sigh in the back of your mind. That's us, reminding you to breathe. One by one, they step back, fading into the mist that drifts over the bridge. Their outlines blur, their colors melt into moonlight. You want to speak, to thank them, but your voice catches in your throat. Lady Pillowdown's smile is the last thing to fade. Sleep well, dear traveler. You fought no wars, and that's victory enough. Then they're gone. You stand alone again on the bridge, the river murmuring below, the world wrapped in quiet. The pendant sighs once more, the gentlest sound in existence, and your eyes grow heavy. You lie down on the smooth stone, resting your head on your folded arms. The air is cool against your skin. The nights hum like a lullaby spun just for you. Your last thought before sleep drifts over you is that maybe, just maybe, the valley has been dreaming you, too. And as your breathing slows to match the water's flow, you feel Yawnshire's peace fold around you one final time, soft as a yawn before morning. You dream that the sky is breathing. It inhales in shades of lavender, exhales in gold. The clouds float not like ships, but like thoughts that have nowhere in particular to go. The air tastes of honey and rain, and you can feel the pulse of the river beneath you, as if the world itself has a heartbeat, slow, endless, content. Somewhere between dream and waking, you hear a soft sound, the sigh of a kettle beginning to hum, the rustle of sheets, a bird half remembering its song. Then, slowly, light begins to bloom behind your eyelids. You open your eyes. The bridge is empty now. Mist clings to its edges, glowing faintly in the dawn. The lanterns are dark, their wicks still warm from the night before. The river beneath you moves with the quiet grace of someone tiptoeing so as not to disturb the dreamers above. You sit up, rubbing your eyes, and for a long moment you can't tell whether it's morning or the valley itself pretending to wake. The air feels different now, lighter, thinner, almost transparent, as if the boundary between dreaming and being has worn away. A soft coo draws your gaze. On the railing beside you sits a white dove, its feathers tipped in gold light. It tilts its head at you as though recognizing an old friend. In its beak, it holds a single silver petal, the kind that drifts from the garden where time fell asleep. The dove hops closer and drops it into your hand. The petal shimmers once, and then, as if dissolving into air, vanishes, leaving behind a faint scent of lavender and tea. And with it comes understanding. You feel it, not as a thought, but as a warmth that spreads through your chest. Yawnshire was never a place on any map. It was a rhythm, the quiet between one heartbeat and the next. The valley, the garden, the library, the orchard, the train to nowhere, all were pieces of a great unspoken truth. Peace is not found, it is remembered. You look out over the valley one last time. The morning fog thins, revealing distant cottages, the glint of dew on fields, the faint wisp of smoke rising from Lady Pillowdown's chimney. Somewhere in that haze, you imagine the tortoise still walking his bridge, the queen still pouring her tea, the clockmaker still humming to his clocks that tick only when someone breathes slowly enough to notice. You smile, then you notice something else. The pendant around your neck is glowing faintly. You lift it, press its side gently, and instead of sighing, it whispers, "Time to wake, traveler." The voice is not quite human, not the queen's, nor the clockmaker's, nor your own, but something made of all of them together. Soft, warm, familiar. You nod and close your hand around it. "Thank you," you murmur. The bridge hums beneath you, a low, comforting vibration, and the mist begins to drift apart. Beyond it, you glimpse the faint outline of a road, one you haven't walked before. It winds into brightness, neither forward nor backward, just outward, as though it leads into the world that once waited for you. You rise, stretch, and step from the bridge. The moment your foot touches the far bank, the valley behind you begins to fade, not vanishing, but melting gently into light, like a dream choosing to rest. You turn once, just in time to see the faintest movement at the water's edge, the ripple of a wave, the shimmer of a lantern relit, the suggestion of a figure lifting its hand in farewell. You lift yours in return. "Goodbye," you whisper. But the valley answers, in a voice made of wind and memory, not goodbye. Until you rest again, the air brightens. The world beyond sharpens into focus. A quiet room, a soft bed, the smell of morning rain against your window. You realize you are home, though something inside you has changed. The rush that once lived in your bones is gone. In its place, a stillness hums the rhythm of Yawnshire, patient and kind. You rise from your bed slowly, as though you are still inside the story, and open the window. The air outside is cool and clean. Somewhere, far away, you think you hear a faint yawn, vast and tender, drifting through the clouds. You smile, knowing the valley has not disappeared. It lives quietly inside you now, in every slow breath, every gentle pause, every small, sacred nothing you allow yourself. And as you stand there, letting the world wake around you, a single thought passes through your mind, soft, certain, eternal. The most boring war ever fought was also the most beautiful one won, because peace, in the end, isn't the silence after noise. It's the song that plays when you stop trying to conduct the world. You breathe in deeply the first true breath of the morning, and the pendant sighs contentedly in your hand. The sun breaks through the mist, filling the room with light. And somewhere, in the quiet heart of Yawnshire, 1,000 dreamers stir, smile, and roll over for 5 more minutes.